I got the walk, there's a longboard walk. I know the talk, the longboard talk.
That light balance is horrible now, but we are live, and wherever you're joining us from, online, on Facebook, on YouTube, from around the world, whether you're in Australia or abroad, welcome to Oz Longboarding. And tonight we have a fantastic episode for you. We're talking, well, it's the first time I've spoken to a lady shaper ever. Jillian Grove joins us tonight to talk about her journey from artist to longboard shaper and what motivated her. But in the meantime, I'm Weeksy here in WA. Currently camped up at the beautiful Yelling up in the southwest of Western Australia, just down the road from Margaret River. And we had a great week down here for a mate of mine's 50th birthday. We're all surfed out and having a great time. How's things on the Gold Coast, Sean McEwen?
Here on the Gold Coast, we've had very, very small waves, but we have had a few little ones. Sort of mornings have been fresh, but it's all been pretty good once you do get into the water. What do we got coming up? Bit of sad news during the week. One of the local surfers, Pineapple's, passed on. We'll be having a wake for him on Friday, I believe. He was a regular in the lineup at Snapper Rainbow, actually blind in his left eye, so he dropped in on everybody because he couldn't see them. Sad to see Pineapple move on. What else we got? Entries went out this week for the Kirilonga Classic. So if you're keen on coming down or coming from wherever and having a surf in it, in the amateurs, it's a good fun comp. So you just go onto the Facebook page for Kirilonga Classic with a K, and you can find out how to join or on live heats. And part of what will be happening this year is the Trans-Tasman Test. We'll be finally getting that underway. That'll be in the program. And there's also going to be a Women's Surf Festival with a lot of things happening. And I believe our guest and two of our panelists are going to be presenters at the festival. So, yeah, it's huge.
Well, she just popped up on the screen, Sean. Would you like to introduce our newest panel member? Back by popular demand.
Yeah, Gillian. I met her surfing.
Sean, I don't know what's going on with you today, mate. Our newest panel
Welcome,
member.
Jodie Barsby.
Oh, sorry. Jodie, yes, everyone knows Jodie. Needs no introduction. Sort of if you haven't seen or heard or been aware of Jodie, you've been in a completely different planet. She's got a huge profile, and we're stoked she's going to be a regular panelist, and really happy to have you here, Jodes.
Oh, thanks, Sean. No, it means a lot, and it's awesome to see, each and every one of you guys. And that again, I feel like it's, just being back at an event, like, and just catching up and, with everyone. So it's awesome to come and join the panel and that for a bit. So thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean and Weeksy for the invite.
We're stoked to have you on board, Jodes. How's things been in Crescent? Because you guys got reined in a bit, obviously. How's the surf been the last week or so?
Oh well, ever since the floods, like we've had hardly any waves. So it's just been so flat. Like it's been at least like 1 foot, like little waves and that happening just out in the track. That's about it. And the points, it's barely breaking, but it's just been amazing. Like the creek's back to as to what it is. Like it's clean water and that again. So so it's just been ever since with all the floods. Like it's just been busy as usual, and just been just fighting on, like with saving the car park, the foreshore car park, and becoming a bit of a well, not a rebel, but like I want to say like a poly wannabe. I don't know. Activist. Yeah, that's the proper word for it. Yeah.
So I've run away and hid out of the sunset so that my face doesn't disappear on you guys. But I think before she gets too far close to training, we better say g'day to our Sunshine Coast correspondent on her way to touch footy. I'm gathering. Kira Molnar, how are you, mate?
Hey, good, thanks. Were you just coming for a ride in the car with me?
Yay.
So, how's your week been in Noosa, Kira?
The week in Noosa so far is good. We actually got a public holiday for Anzac Day, which is super exciting. And then we've got Labor Day next weekend. So we've got a couple of long weekends coming up. A little bit of surf with a southerly change, hopefully. But yeah, exciting.
Fantastic. All right. And someone who we can see his face, that's actually going to make Cookie look like he's most perfectly lit man in town down there in Cronulla. Matthew Cook, how's your week been, big guy?
Yeah, it's been really nice down here in Sydney. We've had beautiful weather. We've had a south swell running for the last maybe week or so. I'm sure Kira would have got a little bit of that at Curl, which hopefully she can talk about the contest a little bit later on. And yeah, just beautiful little waves, great for a longboard, and beautiful weather as well. It's just the best time of year to be down here. It's just fantastic.
Unreal. So that's our little lap around the coast. We haven't heard from Matty Chinosky this week, so I don't know where Matty's hiding. Nathan Riverland is probably at footy. Actually, no, he did send us a message. He
just graduated.
Graduated, yeah. These people putting these big life events and their education in front of the Oz Longboarding show, it's distressing, but, you know. Congratulations, Nath. Well done, mate. Good to hear. Now then, this is very exciting because obviously on Oz Longboarding, we've got a lot of, crusty old men who've been shaping surfboards forever and a day, but we're going to change things up a bit tonight. And our guest this evening, I don't know hardly anything about Jillian, apart from the fact that she's an amazing artist and was started in surfing a little bit later than most, and has decided that since she couldn't find a board that she liked, she's going to learn how to make one herself. Something along those lines. But welcome along to Oz Longboarding to find out the full story. Jillian Grove, great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Weeksy. It's so amazing just to even be able to speak about the journey. Just amazing to be here. Yeah.
So talk us through it then, Jillian. You didn't start life as a surfer. So what's your pathway been to finding your toes in the salt?
I kind of did. So I grew up in Sydney on the northern beaches. So I grew up in a house on Bilgola Beach that overlooked a whole range of beaches there, and my brother was surfing from the time that he could. He's 8 years older than me, and our lives were full of surfers all around, but essentially it really was the dominion of men. I was there even as a young tacker, like it was fielding phone calls from all these guys looking for surf reports, just look out the window, Jill, what's going on with surf today, from about the time I was 6. So I feel like, we always had that kind of surfy sort of household. We had an outdoor shower. We were a gateway to the beach with about 20, 30 boards stacked in it. I took up surfing myself when I was about 11, so shortboards. Yeah, so I started when I was 11, and we just knocked around. I was one of probably 3 women back then that I knew of that surfed in that region. I surfed for a couple of years in the northern beaches. I begged my brother for the first board, and it was $10 and brown. I don't know what the dimensions were, but I just loved that thing. I was on it as often as I could before and after school, and I used to rope a couple of friends into surfing, but I had quite a serious accident when I was about 13, and I took about 12, 13 stitches to my face, which sort of gave me a bit of a knockaround, and sort of paused the surfing journey for a little while. And then I moved from Sydney to the coast, and I sort of kept going with my surfing for a little while. Women's surfing was sort of just taking off. It was the 80s. There was a surf team they were trying to put together at one of the Gold Coast high schools there, and somebody had heard about my surfing just from the scar was so noticeable. So I got sort of dragged onto a girls' surf team in high school. So surfed the surf team there in about grade 12. And then I kind of spent the next 10 years traveling, and so surfing sort of fell away. And I came back in probably about 7-8 years ago, I sort of came back in and got back on and went to some lessons to build up my confidence, and you know, back on the foamy at the surf schools for a while, and then I surfed a 7.6 for a bit, for quite a few years there. And then that board got a ding in it, had a bit of a dodgy repair job, and so I went looking for the first time ever for my very first sort of board, I guess, first shop board or brand new surfboard. And that's kind of where the story turns.
Well, tell us about the story, just the start of it, you experienced in that shop. I mean, I know it's all in the Pacific Longboard magazine, but I know you can tell it so much better.
Look, I feel like it's, you know, when I first started telling this story, it was after I'd started shaping, and I sort of put the story out there on my Instagram. I'm on Instagram under Shaped by She. And I just started to tell this story of, you know, coming at it, trying to buy a new board for the first time, and, you know, not really knowing any background, not really having anyone to talk to about it. You know, I wasn't I'm not, obviously not a spring chicken anymore. So I wanted something that, you know, was going to be a bit of an easier paddle. I was, you know, been on the 7.6 for a while, but I needed that easier paddle, and I thought, oh, I'll give one of these longboards a go. So in my mind, I sort of thought, oh yeah, I'll look for a longboard, and that'll be, I guess, sort of solve some of those problems around. That was my assumption at that time, was it was going to be easier to paddle and, you know, easier to manage my fitness. So I went in. I'll never name the shop, or I'll never name the board that it was. But essentially, I just went into a great big shop on the Gold Coast. You know, very well branded. Walked in, and you know, looking back, I should have really known when I walked in. And there's, you know, lots and lots of shortboards and just a small stand of longboards. You know, now I look at that and go, oh, that was probably my first clue. But I went in there and I sort of had a bit of a chat to the young bloke, and, you know, we were there for about an hour going through, you know, and I was just drilling him with questions because I didn't know really, you know, all I knew was that I needed an easier paddle to help with my fitness. And so we had a bit of a chat, and I bought, you know, a longboard, a 9.1, and I was so excited. Like I got it home, and you know, I waxed it all up, and, you know, the surf was about 2 or 3 foot at Kira, so I was really excited. And, you know, it's just that new board feeling when you get your new board, you're all excited, you wax it up, and, you know, you're just ready to go. You know, you're waiting for the sun to come up in the morning because it's a new board, you want to get it in the water. So I got it in the water, and, you know, I paddled out. As soon as I hit the water, I knew, oh, something's not right here. And so I surfed first couple of, I just knew when I started paddling, my body was sitting low in the water. You know, it's a struggle to paddle out. I was sort of breathing pretty heavy by the time I got out the back. And I, you know, I caught the first wave, and it was a bit skittish, and I was sort of moving, you know, a lot on the board was moving a lot under me. And you know, I went out, I caught 2 or 3 waves, and, you know, not only was I flogged, but I just wasn't really surfing, you know, comfortably. So, you know, it was a bit devastating. Like, and I immediately, the first thing I thought is, you know, it's me. Like, you know, my surfing, my confidence took a real bashing. Like, I thought, oh, it's me. Like this, you know, I'm obviously not, you know, a good enough surfer or ready to be able to, you know, go to a longboard. I just sort of really was beating myself up. Anyway, the next day I tried to get a hold of the shop to sort of go, oh, I'm not sure, you know, maybe, you know, what's going on. Maybe it's the board. And I just couldn't get a hold of anyone. So I'm emailing head office, and, you know, we're back and you know, I'm waiting for an answer. And it took a couple of weeks, and nobody got back to me. And the shop guy, eventually the manager of the surf shop, came back to me, and he said, oh, no, you've just got to ride it a bit more and get used to it. you know, and I just was gutted. Like, I just made up my mind. I knew how I surfed. I knew that there was something wrong, but I just didn't know what it was. So I just sort of went, oh, that's all too hard. Like, and I just put it in the corner. You know, you spend a good, you know, it's probably $1,600 that I'd spent on, you know, the board and all the trimming. So I sort of just put it in the corner, and I just went, oh, bugger it. I still wanted to surf. So I went, oh, stuff it, I'll go out and get a foamy. So I just went and bought a 9-foot foamy, and just to get back out and have fun. And, you know, it was awesome. Like, I got on the foamy, and, you know, my confidence came back, and, you know, people were probably looking, going, oh, who's that chick on the foamy? You know, I was really moving that thing in the time that I had it. Excuse me. But I started to sort of think, oh, you know, what is it? Like, obviously my surfing's all right. You know, I'm cleaning waves up on the little foamy. Like, you know, what is it about that board? So I started researching, and with my research, just looking into different boards and board dynamics, I came across a surfboard making workshop with Richard Harvey on the Gold Coast, a 5-day sort of intro to board making with Richard Harvey, and I just went, oh, let's go have a crack at that. Like, I'd been an artist, used to working with my hands and making things, and I do ceramics, I paint, I, you know, do everything to do with art. So sort of lent itself to starting that journey.
So what was your, at that point though, was your inspiration to learn how to make surfboards, or just to learn more about what sort of surfboard you wanted?
I was just curious about the whole thing. So I think at that stage I went, oh, I need a new board. You know, wouldn't it be fun just to go and, you know, wouldn't it be fun to make one? You know, and I saw this workshop just in my research, and I just went, oh, I want to have a go at that. Like, it just seemed like fun. That was at the start before I knew. Yeah.
Did you face
down that path?
Did you face any resistance from within the surfboard shaping community? Girls don't shape?
No, not at all. The surfing community's been, I mean, that probably came further down the track. Like, you know, as I started to shape more boards, and, you know, people started to hear, oh, there's someone out there shaping there's this female out there shaping longboards. I think it was more just curiosity. No, they've been, I would say overall, the shaping community's just been overwhelmingly helpful. You know, I guess there's just whether you're female, male, it's, I think, a genuine curiosity into, you know, how are boards made, you know, and what can they do. For me, what it was and what hooked me in when I eventually got in the shaping bay was that, you know, the board should make you a better surfer. You know, you shouldn't be compensating your surfing for your board. Like, you should get on a board and it take you to that next level. So when I worked out, oh wow, there's all these things that you can add into a board, all these dynamics and all these changes you can make, you know, that can make you a better surfer. Like, I just wanted to know, what are they? Like, you know, what are these things? And then it was like the whole world opened up. It was, you know, there's all these things that we can do. I was only looking at, you know, before I stepped into that shaping bay for the first time, I thought there was length, width, thickness and colour, you know, with colour being the most important.
It's funny how many people do think that colour is the most important. Red goes faster, right?
Yeah, that's how you pick a good board.
Yeah. How was the first board that you shaped? How did that go?
Yeah, so that first board was just like my brain just exploded. Like, so like I went into the shaping bay the first day. I decided I'd shape a 9/6. So I went into the bay. So the first day is a lot about, you know, understanding all the dynamics side of it, you know, the 3 sections of a longboard. You know, Harv's is really good at leading you in sort of slowly. And few pics.
I was just going to get to your shaping shots in the bay there, so we can. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, I guess yeah, that's probably that first week, that board there, that shot there. So that's working on that first 9/6. Yeah, the first bit was about learning all the dynamics, and then obviously how to use all the tools. It was things like I didn't even know what rails did. Like now I'm like in my life looking at rails on surfboards. Like it's like the holy grail is to nail the rail. So that's the first one there. So I put on this, beautiful pink floral design. I wanted it to be super girly. But yeah, I just sort of went in. It was just information overload, and physically it was huge. All these new tools, learning how to bend I didn't have any carpentry skills, so I had to learn how to bend the saw. Like this, we're fully shaping from hand. So, I'd go home and, I'd have just thousands of questions. So it's like my brain just got flooded with, I worked out there's something like 65 different things they can customize into your longboard. So those sort of 3 or 4 things that I knew about were just the tip of the iceberg. And, once I got in there, I was just like, there's all this stuff. So, within those 65 things, they've each got branches, of other things. There's hundreds of things, that go into it. Just moving a measurement, 0.5 millimeter or, it just, so then the journey became, how do I make boards that make me or anyone else better surfer? Like what goes into it, what makes you a better surfer? And and for the average surfer as well, I think a lot of shapers that are in the industry are pretty full-on surfers, or have come from some kind of successful, very successful surfing background. So I sort of came at it a bit of a different angle, because I came at it from like an average surfer going, okay, what do we do now? How do we make boards better for everybody?
You just said, Jillian, you're trying to make boards for everyone. Are you making boards for a lot of women? A lot of women liking your boards over men? Or
yeah. So I'm definitely supported by, many, many women. Excuse me. I've at this stage, I'm actually not making boards for anyone else yet. I'm still pretty early on in the journey, and I really want to, it's nearly a couple of grand to get a new board. It's a big commitment. I don't want to send any boards out that aren't 150%. Like, Harves, who I work out of his shaping bay, Richard Harvey on the Gold Coast at Miami. He looks over all of my work, and we're constantly in conversation. It's a craft that takes. There's Harves there. He actually calls me Alice. After the set, that's my second board there that I shaped for my partner Steve. So yeah, he calls me Alice because he says I've gone down the rabbit hole and I'm not coming back. It's the rabbit hole is scraping and there's no coming back.
So I just want to ask about your board. So the first board that you made, so that's pictured there, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to shape it? So does it vary, like, I suppose, like, as you gain knowledge, doing each board, like?
Yeah. So when I first started, so that's the board I made over 5 days. So I shaped over 5 days. So we that was sort of all the learning. But now I'm down to, I was in the bay on last week and I finished off one board. I had to do a couple of tweaks on something, and then the next board I finished up in about 4 hours. So yeah, it's getting down. Like, I know, I don't know how long the experienced shapers, I think Harves could probably knock one out in an hour. But yeah, probably about 4. I'm at about 4 hours. I'm still early on in the journey.
So, oh, sorry, go on, Sean.
With the fact that, most of the boards you're doing, are for females, but you've done one for your partner, Steve, and that,
Yeah.
you have to do something different for the girls as opposed to the guys. Are they narrower, or, sort of, do you have to have certain places, step deck in the deck for girls to lie
Yeah,
flat,
it's a really interesting question. There's probably the biggest thing that women ask for is easier paddling. So that's absolutely, and just across the board when I'm talking on the blog, like on Instagram, and questions, and you just get so many women coming back asking about how do I make paddling easier. So that's probably the most common thing. That there might be other things that crop up as we go along, but I think there's probably, I think I'm speaking to a group of, there's a whole group of women that have entered surfing, and I'm not quite sure whether the industry's fully caught up with it yet, that come with no surf history, no one in their family that surfed, no one, they haven't grown up with it, they're not connected to, they're having a go at surfing because it looks like fun and it keeps them fit, and it's with good crew of people. So we've got this, we've got this whole new wave of people hitting the water, and they're looking for guidance, they're looking for education. They want to know what's going to help them, and they don't necessarily have the people around them to ask. So I think social media has been good there. It's a safe forum for people to sort of reach out anonymously.
I'll just let Kira jump in quickly because I can see she's arrived at the footy field. I can hear the kids screaming in the background. Kira, have you got any questions or words of wisdom to pass on before we lose you for the week?
I just actually, before I go, I had the privilege of actually meeting Jill in the water, and she was riding her green avocado board and asked me to have a go on it, and it was super fun. And after riding it, I was like, oh, it nose rides pretty well, and she's like, oh, it's actually made for more maneuverability, but it was really enjoyable, and I'm so stoked to have ridden one of your boards.
Yeah, thanks. Took me all 20 seconds when I saw Kira Molnar out in the water to go. I said to one of the local guys, I'm like, is that Kira Molnar? And I'm like, I think that's Kira Molnar. And he's like, yeah, we introduced him. It was like having a celebrity out there. It took me about 3 seconds to go, I just made this, have a go.
Oh, it was so good though. Thank you so much. I'll message you down when I'm at the Goldie again.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks,
hopefully this weekend.
We'll let you go, Kira. I'm still very interested to hear the rest of that story about the contest you were just in. Maybe we can do a follow-up on that perhaps next week. But thank you for taking the time to join with us on your way to training, mate. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Thanks, guys. All good. See ya.
Don't get injured.
Good luck.
So, Jillian, I'm curious then. Now that you've made a few boards and you've learnt a bit more about the dynamics, and I've made one board, so I feel like I'm in the Shapers Club. But looking back now on that first board that the nameless multinational surf chain, by the sound of things, put you onto, what was wrong with that board? Why didn't it work?
Yeah, too thin, and it's a performance. So it's what they call a high performance board. Again, so many people don't know what a high performance board means or is. The irony is that I'm the latest board that I've fallen in love with, and the one that Kira rode is a bit of a high performance board that I've shaped. So I don't have anything against the performance boards, but this one's been shaped for speed and maneuverability, and it's very light. So it's it's a board really that should be ridden in probably 5 foot plus waves. So and this has been the understanding for me around the board shaping and understanding all this stuff is boards are made to do certain things and to be ridden in certain kinds of waves. That's probably the mistake the young bloke made in the surf shop is he didn't really prioritize my need for, you know, an easier paddle at that point. You know, he sort of prioritized the years I'd been surfing, I think. And yeah, the board just wasn't a fit. I'm not saying it was a bad board. It was a great board, wrong surfer, wrong conditions. So, you know, buying a board is all about matching the board to the surfer. So, you know,
that you probably find the young guy in the shop's never ridden anything over a 6'6".
You know, that's, you know, looking back now, that I can see so many things there, so many fatal errors, you know, and also not understanding as well the importance of, or just the benefits of getting a custom board made. Like, you know, now that I'm in that and I'm shaping and I'm understanding and I'm working, you know, and chatting and, you know, researching all these long-term shapers, I'm just like, why wouldn't you get a custom board made? Like, it's just so cool. Like, you know, we're longboarders. Like, we're the kings and queens of cool. Like, I sort of said, like, you know, you want something. I'm not somebody. There's Sylvie. It's another artist. So.
But that's got to make it all worthwhile when someone picks up their board and they're that frothing.
Yeah. Oh, look, totally. And look, she comes out. So Sylvie Kettle's an artist, you know, that I've known for some time, and you know, she just begged me, oh, Jilly, can you please make me a board? You know, she's got the 7 sons on there.
Look how happy she is.
Yeah, just so happy. Yeah, that's us surfing. We've just hopped out of Kira there. So, yeah, that's the original. That's the #1 board. So I surfed that for a long time, but now I just find it so clunky. You know, it wasn't long, I think, before I really started to finesse my own boards and work out the kind of surfer that I was, and my surfing started to massively improve as well. But, you know, having that relationship with a shaper who can custom make you something is, you know, second to none, you know, and even better if they've seen you surf, you know, or, you know, somebody you know, and so many guys out there that are still honing that craft of hand shaping longboards. You know, support them, get out there. Who are they? They're your locals. Like, they're probably surfing next to you on the surf. Like,
Well, it sounds like you accidentally made a nose rider, which is also high performance. So I might have to come and check.
Well, yeah, what I
If Kira reckons that nose ride's easy, I want one, because that's my weakness.
Yeah. That's been, I guess, a bit of an alter, because I came from a shortboarding background. Turning sort of came naturally for me. It's a bit harder for me to just get up and ride straight. Sort of, you know, that trimming and, you know, getting out to the nose has been, you know, that's something I've had to work at. And yeah, this board I made, the green avocado, or the green pickle we sometimes call it, because it's bright green. It looks like a pickle. So that board is just the love of my life at the moment. And I sort of that was board #7. And I kind of got to that board and went, oh, well, shaping's all over now. Like, I've got my perfect board, you know. I'm packing up my tools and going home. Like, it's sort of just getting it in the surf. And when you get that magic board, like, you know, that board, you get in the water, it does one turn. And once it needs that first turn, and it just flies, you know. And, you know, you've got time then, because you've got the momentum up and the speed to get out, you know, get out to the nose. But yeah, it's been such a winner, that #7 board. So I've been tweaking that, and in the bay last week, I've been tweaking that model just to make that nose riding a little steadier. So yeah, just adding in a couple of tweaks to that but it's been such a winner, and yeah, pretty hard to surf the other boards that are coming out now. Yeah.
So do you give your board a name, as in, you know, the model, like, yeah, is that the #7 type thing, or, yeah?
Yeah, so 007, when 007 came out, oh, sorry, the green pickle's 006, because when 007 came out, one of the local boys, Tav, he's a photographer. He said, "Oh, that's the James Bond board." So yeah, we call it the Bond board or James. You know, so it's we take James out for a spin. So James is so there has been a bit of naming going on. So yeah, James is my sort of steady log rider, just traditional log, very dependable, wide, stable. You know, it's just a really good all-round board, super easy to paddle onto everything. You know, got a bit of added thickness, and I created that one really to have the sort of ultimate nose rider, but I've been so reluctant to ride it because the number 6 is just such a winner. So I sort of get on James. It's like the slow old guy just cruising along, whereas the Pickle's just such a sparky flyer. But I rode James this morning, and it's just so beautiful when the surf's small and you just want to cruise along. It's such a beautiful board to ride. Yeah.
Unreal. And so what do you reckon is the biggest mistake people are making when they're choosing their boards? Actually, look, let's not even get into that. But what I'm curious about is coming into surfing the longboarding a little bit later, and you said there was always that kind of distance between the guys and the girls kind of thing. So you were the right person to ring for the surf report, but you didn't necessarily get to go for the surf kind of thing. How did you find establishing the vocabulary? Because people I know who have surfed all their lives can't describe what they want in a board to save their lives. So if you're learning the vocabulary of shaping it as well as the board design itself, how do you find that interaction with your customers goes?
Oh, just with people. Look, I don't think I use a lot of vocabulary. People come in with problems. So, when they talk to you about their boards, they talk about problems they're having. So you're sort of problem solving. They don't necessarily know the words, but they'll say, I'm having some problems with this, or I had this board. Like, I surfed with a girl a couple of months ago that I knew, and she was on this old log she had. It looked about 20 years old. It was all brown, and it was. But she said she bought a new board and she's put it to the side and just stayed on her old board, and that fascinates me. I'm like, what happened? What was wrong? And there's sometimes it's a feeling, but she said, no, I just feel steadier on this. It's faster, or this part's smoother, or the paddle, or they sort of talk in terms of what the problems are. But that's the stuff that really fascinates me, is what problems are you having, because they can most likely be fixed, with a board. So yeah, so that was really interesting. And then she said, I love this board, but I can't get to the nose, And then, we're having a chat and going, oh, have a look at the rails here look at how the water wraps around the back of it. Look at, I used to think that was probably one of the biggest learnings for me in terms of shaping longboards and coming in as well from a shortboard perspective. I just assumed that nose riding happened on the nose in the board, like that's where you shape, shapers were shaping noses for nose riding.
Sometimes Weeksy does the cheetah 5s and that, though, Jill.
I couldn't understand why I couldn't tweak the nose to make it a better nose rider. Like, it was, and then Harv's was like, Jill, like, the nose isn't even in the water. Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, of course, like, the nose isn't in the water. Like, well, what's in the water? The rails are in the water and the tail's in the water. So, if the board's not wrapping the water, you're not going to get on the nose. So, and that's been the last couple of tweaks I've done have been around working out how to make sure that the water is wrapping successfully around that back end of the board. And those rails are really holding you in the side.
That's awesome.
Wayne Dean.
So obvious.
If you had the opportunity, Jill, like, who would you shape a board for? Like, anyone, like, even if it's
Oh. Oh, that's such a big question. So, yeah, God, anyone. My ultimate customer for me is somebody who's probably a bit fed up with surfing and hasn't realised that it's the board. That to me, if I caught someone who was on the edge of giving up because they felt like they couldn't do it or it wasn't for them, and I got a hold of that person and watched them surf and then change their board, that's the most rewarding, I think, for me. That would be the most rewarding for me.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
eventually, and that's at this stage. Like, I'm sure I'll be running off a string of names, including all of you guys, but, I just, that's the stuff that really gets me. And each board, and that's what drives me, in this shaping journey, is just to push. It's the board design. Like, it's that aspect that's got me absolutely hooked, and that I can make these tweaks, and take off.
Just purely from a marketing point of view, Gillian, Sean McEwen's going to be back in the water soon, and when that happens, that first board that he goes out on is going to get a lot of coverage.
Yeah. Sean and I had a bit of a chat on the beach this morning about that.
Yeah, but what happens if you do get someone like me that fronts and says, look, I want a board that makes me surf, I want to be able to turn it like Bonga Perkins, nose ride it like Josh Constable, and I want to absolutely rip on it, and I'm 120 kilos. How are you going to approach that?
12 inches thick.
Lots of foam.
Oh, yeah. No.
There'd be a lot of foam in that board. Yeah, look, that's that's one of the things, I guess, for shaping around, making the board float is that buoyancy comes from the thickness. So, that was the lesson I learned the hard way, and that with that first board that, wasn't suitable for me. It was too thin. So, the first thing is getting the thickness in place, and then we can start looking at the others. So the first, there's sort of 3 sections to a longboard, and the middle section is that buoyancy, and helping you out with that.
It's funny you've nailed it. The very first shaper, whoever said it to me, was Wayne Dean. He said, if you're making a nose rider board, the last 6 inches of the board is the most important. So you've nailed that, because if you're saying the same thing as Deanie as a shaper, you're on the right track.
Yeah, look, I'm no expert by any means. Like, it's such, I'm still what they call I call myself a baby shaper. Because, these guys, and, you've got these guys in the game that are making, they've made thousands of boards in their lifetime. I can see with each board the improvement just in the first 10. Like, it's, each board I make, I feel like my knowledge doubles, and then sort of halves can come in and just sort of give me a little bit more. He's pretty good at not overwhelming me. And also letting me kind of work things out for myself. I was very, I was shaping, these pretty cool concaves into the front of all the boards, and, been researching that and looking at concaves. And then I'm out at Rainbow Bay, to a couple of months ago, and there's this young girl just tearing it up on this longboard. And I often do that. If I see someone who's killing out there, there's usually a conversation, the board gets flipped over, like there's an inspection of what's going on with that board. So anyway, this young girl's just tearing it up out at Rainbow. She was just so beautiful to watch. And so we had a bit of a chat. She turned the board over, no concave. And I just was like, wait a second, like, no concave. Like, it was, how's that happening? And then I'm like in my brain going, hey, it goes against everything I've just learned. But you know, that's the journey. Like, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. And, you know, I went back and I had a good chat with Harves, and, you know, I've shaped now. There's one that's coming through glassing at the moment that, yeah, it doesn't have the concave in, and, you know, it's, you know, those rolls in the bottom of the board are designed to suck you down into the wave. And, you know, theoretically, that's what's happening is, you know, it's getting sucked into the water. But she didn't seem to, you know, you'd think, oh, it would be slow, but no, it was a beautiful board to watch. So I'm sort of experimenting with different things because, yeah, there's just so many different ways to approach a problem, you know, and that's the fun for me, is experimenting and exploring and going, oh, what's this going to do? Or you see something in the surf or someone in the surf, or, you know, I reach out to the shaper, have a bit of a chat. What have you done here? You know, there's so many, and we've got, you know, on the Gold Coast is awesome. Like, I'm surfing between Kira and Rainbow, you know, almost every day. The standard of surfing is phenomenal. Like, and some of the girls out there are just killing it. So that's kind of exciting.
I think from a progression point of view as a shaper as well, I mean, you get to try 20 different turns on one wave when you're surfing a nice long point break like that. So that must really help from an R&D point of view as well.
Look, yeah, that the whole research and development thing is that's just going to be a lifelong journey. Like, you never, I don't think any shaper, even when I speak to Harves, who's, you know, he's a lifetime of shape, you know, 40 years of shaping, like, and he said, yeah, he's still learning and changing and, you know, picking up new things, and, you know, so that to me, and I'm a bit of a sort of kinetic learner. Like, I've got to do things and feel them in order to understand, you know, what I'm doing. So that process of shaping it, you know, thinking about what it's going to do, then shaping it, then getting it in the water and testing it, and then getting other people to ride it, and then, you know, that's been just so awesome, you know, and just in terms of just, yeah, that's what keeps it exciting. You know, you get in the water and then go, oh, let's try this, and, you know, and then one day I had, well, not one day, it was board number 4 was an absolute dog. So they're not all wins. But there was, and again, I didn't realise it. Like, I'd shaped this board, put all the thinking in and all the theories, and, you know, I'd seen all these lovely sleek noses in some of the boards around the Gold Coast, and I went, oh, yeah, I'd like to do one of those, and got in the bay, and I don't know what happened, but I got that board in the water, and it was just the most perfect surf, and I could not surf. Like, it was just stopping in the water, and I was, you know, it's just gets embarrassing. There's you know, I'm paddling for these waves, and it wouldn't paddle over onto the wave. When I got onto the wave, it would just stop, and I was coming off the back, and I moved forward a bit, it had nosedive. I just could not get this board to work. And you know, I sort of got out of the surf, had a bit of a tanny, like no one wants a bad surf, and then you know, after a couple of hours of sort of beating myself up, going, oh, what's happened? And then I rang Harves and had a bit of a chat to him, and he sort of said, oh, it sounds like this, check this. And it was on the money 100%. Like, there was a bit of a bend in the board, wasn't a smooth transition. There was, you know, I'd taken too much foam out of the nose, trying to get that thin, sleek nose, so the board was unbalanced. So there were all these reasons why. But, you know, how many people out there, you know, not to blame my crappy surfing on the board, but but it just makes me think, you know, how many people out there are riding boards and you just don't know that, yeah, it's the board. Like, there's something going on with that board. So, you know, but for me, in terms of the research and development, that board was the absolute most important board I've shaped. You know, to get it in the water and have it not work was just as important as getting the boards in the water that do work.
Hey, Jill, I know you come from a bit of an artist background.
Yes.
And like a lot of shapers, there's a lot of creative people out there that are into art. And have you noticed anything that you've brought from the art world into your shaping?
Oh, 100%, like 100%. It was an uncanny kind of crossover. Well, because I'm an artist that can work in very high level realism, so I can paint and draw anything that's put in front of me to a photo. Then I also do very abstract, looser sort of more expressional sort of art. And then I moved into ceramics, which is all, form and function there. I think probably the biggest thing, the hardest thing, I think, when you learn to shape or when you're looking at boards is to see the lines of the board. You've got to be able to look down a board and see these almost kind of invisible lines. And there's certain lights and stuff we use in the shaping bay to do that. But that, I think I probably picked that up a bit faster than most. And I think that was the crossover from the art world, like just looking and seeing things that, I think that was probably a good crossover. And I guess the physicality of working with ceramics and throwing on a wheel, and that's pretty heavy sort of physical work. I come out of that shaping bay and I am trashed. Like, that first week I was in bed at 7 o'clock every night. Like, it was just, and even now, like, I come out, it's like a marathon. And you see the shapers in the bay and they're just covered in sweat, like they're red, like it's a full-on workout. But I sort of, it all contributes to the paddle power in the surf. But yeah, there has been a crossover, and certainly that creative thinking and that creative problem solving that we use in art is a definite crossover. And yeah, like Harves as well, he's an artist too. There's just such a great fit between those two things. And I think the hand shaping as well, like I know there's a lot of computer made boards now. There's one of my artworks of a friend's father who passed away.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask if that was Wayne Crouch McCleary. You say you do realism, you've missed quite a lot of lines, but it's not him. So it's all right.
I'll incredibly stoked to hear that. Yeah, and his family. There's that's actually done in pastel, that work. It's probably one of the more recent ones. For a friend's father who passed away.
With my limited knowledge of art, I have a very talented sister-in-law who was persevering with trying to teach me. She taught me some great skills. But that eye for detail is one thing. But I know with painting, especially with built up acrylics and all the different styles of paints you can use, you can kind of go over top of it and change it a bit and fix it a bit. How has that finite element of surfboard shaping where you can't stick the foam back on, has that presented challenges for you?
Not really, no. Like you sort of no, I guess as you go in with a bit of a plan, I'm pretty careful. There's a bit of that, I think there's that balance, and I sort of talked about that in the past. Like there's a balance between this working realistically in art and working intuitively, and I think that comes into it in the board shaping. Like there's measurements and things that need to be precise and exact. So you're in that frame of mind when you're doing those things. And then there's certain parts of the process where you are in that brain set going, right, this has got to be accurate, make sure this is right before you move to that. And then when it gets into, the hand tools and that, you're working more intuitively and you're feeling. So, Harves was early on the best thing he ever said, and I've never forgotten it. And there's a photo of my hand on the board covered in shaping dust. And, he sort of grabbed my hand and he said, you never forget this, Jill. Like this is where it comes from. You've got to feel You got to feel it with your hands and your eyes. Like, they're your best tools. So you can do all the measuring in the world, and you can have whatever computer analysis coming out, but you're getting a feel for it. And I think that is the art of hand shaping, is there's somebody working and putting soul into that board. Like, there's an energy going into that board that, I think moves through to the end process. And some boards come easy, and they tend to be the ones that surf really well. And, the dog that I shaped, I think I really struggled through that board, and I often wonder if that's what was going on there, that, I was a bit, not really smooth and flowing with the process when I shaped it.
So Jill, if you had the like with your knowledge of that so far, with shaping, and what advice would you give to any females that women that want to give shaping a go? Like, what's your best advice that you can give to anyone?
Find a really experienced shaper who you can talk to and who is willing to give you a hand. There's no way I could have gotten this far in the journey without Richard Harvey. Like, there are shapers out there ready and willing to get you in the bay. You'll work hard, but you've got to find that's precious knowledge that's being, there are almost like our surfing shaping stories being handed down. Find someone who knows that knowledge, who knows it inside out, and go work with them. Like, go find them, go ask them. There'll be plenty of people out there keen to give you a hand.
Do you reckon Harvey's telling you all his secrets though, Jill, or is he holding back a bit?
I'm sure he's holding back something. Look, there's things, he's very good at letting me work some things out for myself, and I'm a little bit that way inclined. I've been playing around with the level of rocker. So we have blanks that we order in that come from a standard sort of template. They're probably secrets certain shapers take to the grave. The blanks they order, and but I've started tweaking and ordering blanks with certain tweaks as well as I try things. I've taken a bit of rocker out of one of the models. I'm working with that, but look, I'm sure there is, but honestly, I could spend 20 years with halves and not get to the bottom of what's going on. So, that's my responsibility as learning this craft, is to seek out that information and, take responsibility for my own learning journey too, which I do regularly. I keep a big spreadsheet on the moving 65 elements. I keep adding to that spreadsheet, because the thing with shaping and boards is you put something in and something else has to come out. Like, there's this constant payoff between, you want a nose rider? Well, you might have to sacrifice some maneuverability or some speed, or you want this, you might have to sacrifice something else. So, I mean, I'm not saying all those things can't be built into a board, and they are, but there's give and take when you're shaping boards. You put something in, something's got to come out. Yeah.
All about compromise and finding that balance. Have you ever shaped a board, Jodes?
Sorry?
Have you ever shaped your own board?
No, I never had. I've never had the opportunity to. But you know what? I feel like I can hassle Keno and that. So if I just go up the road and hassle him, I'm sure that he'll be. I'd love to watch. To watch him shape and stuff like that. I know, like, even like what you were saying earlier, Jill, about with the relationship with the shaper and stuff. Like, when I was competing, back at the time, and Keno, took me on and under his wing, and basically, like, he knew like what I needed and stuff, like, because he had seen me surf, and like I said to him, it's funny, a true story. Like, I asked him he made me a couple of boards for Noosa one year, and I said to him, like, oh, do you think with my other board, like my performance board, you can make like a narrow like nose, you know, it's all like a speed shape thing. But what he did, he made it look like it was a nipple. So he was, in other words, he was being a real, he was being a real smart ass to me in that about it for me asking, and I've never asked anything ever since. So
That's classic.
But,
So just like a little platform out the front for doing fives on.
yeah.
That's
So
hilarious.
I've never forgotten that. But you know, like it's just amazing, like, you know, just having that relationship and that, you know, like with Keno and hearing, like, you know, with your relationship and stuff, like with Harv's, you know, with the shaping side of it, like, yeah, it's really it is really important to have that, you know, that relationship, especially, you know, when, and it's, yeah, it's so important to have that, you know, to know what you want in your board and stuff, of course.
So Jill, what didn't they tell you about shaping before you did your first stint that maybe might have held you back if you'd known?
Oh God.
The reason I ask that is because I've made myself one board and I would never complain about the cost of a board ever again.
Yeah, no. And I've had that conversation about cost as well. Like, how do you drive, you know, how do you compare driving a Kia to a BMW? Like, that's what you're getting with a hand-shaped board. Like, you know, you go buy a cheap board off the rack, you know, it's there's no comparison. Like, so look, I think probably that it would take, you know, 100 boards to start to feel confident. I think just how many boards, how much shaping you need to do to get your head around it. There's so many things that keep changing and that take time. You know, the rails for me have been just such a learning journey, and you know, in terms of getting them right, and then, you know, moving those to try different things, you know, so many different things. But yeah, probably just the sheer quantity. I think if somebody had said to me, you know, you're not just going to make one board and you'll know how to shape, which I think was probably my illusion, is that you go and you learn, you do a course, you learn how to shape a board, and then you're set to go. Like, that is just ridiculous. Like, every shaper out there is laughing their asses off right now. Like, I went in just so naive. But I don't know. I just, when I got in there. So, but shaping's either going to be for you or it's not going to be for you. Like, it completely captivated me. Like, that first board, I knew on that first board that I would be shaping boards for the rest of my life. Like, this, you know, whether it becomes, you know, I've got a pretty full-on job, you know, company that I run, but, you know, I just was so, it's either going to grab you or it's not. And I've met people that have gone, I shaped one board and, you know, it just wasn't for me. Whereas, you know, I went in there and went, oh my God, like, this is amazing, you know, and I get excited. Like, I leave that shaping bay just buzzing. Like, it's such an accomplishment and such, to me, just such a work of art. And, you know, when you buy a hand-shaped board off a shaper, you are buying a work of art. Like, it's just amazing. Like,
I'm getting the impression you're not rushing out to buy a shaping machine, Jill.
Look, I don't know whether that will develop down the track, because the thing, as I said, like, the thing that has me captivated is the board design, and that boards can make you a better surfer. And, you know, if at some point in the future there's a model that comes up or something that happens and we can get those out to the masses, then I don't know how I'd feel about that. But
we don't want everyone to have the good to ride boards.
No, I can't imagine that I would. It's for me, it's sort of like a values thing. It's you know, we buy at our local markets our food. You know, we want to know where our food's coming from, and, you know, who we want to buy from, people that are growing it locally. You know, we eat in our house, we eat off handmade ceramics that we've made.
So, like, I've got a really good friend, Steve Del Rosso from Clearwater Surfboards, and he loves the element of repeatability and tweakability. So the pathway you're talking about, as far as modifying designs and getting it right, he actually utilizes the machine to achieve that. He was always a hand shaper to start off with, but then once he's got his basic models right, but then he's able to half an inch here and an eighth of an inch there, and to be able to reproduce once he's got the magic. So again, I don't think there's any right and wrong, but I got the feeling that for you, it's probably at least partly is the actual hands-on creation of sculpting.
I'm not sure because I'm not sure. I haven't got any expectations around that. At this stage, I just know that I love it. I love what I'm doing. You know,
You're addicted. As soon as you start talking about the boards, you can see it in your eyes. It's like a mafia.
Definitely.
You're in. You can't leave.
Well, it's because all of a sudden I found an art that is super functional, you know.
Right.
And and I can't tell you the improvement in
but for you to ride your own boards, then the way you ride the board in itself is an art form. So there's so many layers there. I think it's great. I can't wait to see you surfing on it at Kira at the Longboard Classic. And I might have to put an order in for a pickle based on Kira's recommendation.
That'll be the day when I'm nose diving and having a bit of a mess.
Give your competitors the nosediving board when you're in a heat.
Ride this. It's a really good board.
Jody, you would never have done anything like that. You never used soap to wax up your competitor's board or anything. Jodes, you would never have done that.
No, but it has happened to me.
What?
It has happened to me, yes. I believe it was at Kingscliff.
Was that Chelsea?
Yes, of course it was Chelsea.
Chelsea Williams. Jill, when you said you saw someone ripping on a longboard at Greenmount, the first name that jumped into my head was Chelsea Williams. But
that's what I thought too, yeah.
She's a bit of a rat bag.
Yeah. I think her dad pretty regularly surfs out at Kira with us, and her granddad was actually out, I think, last week. He's got a new board. We're having a bit of a chat about that. So, I mean, it's just so cool seeing that intergenerational stuff. Super cool.
Jill, I do have to ask. I know that you've been shaping. Talking about shaping your boards and stuff. Have you ever attempted with glassing and that as yet, or is that?
No, and look, when you sort of asked about the other shapers, that's probably the area that I cop the most flack. Is the glassing. Look, I feel like I'm not at. I feel like it's not something that's drawing me at this stage. But it is something, it's something Harves has got there at the workshop, and I can jump in at any time. At this stage, I'm just so enjoying the board design and the foam and that side of things. And I really want to get my head around that before I put any more on my plate.
Yeah.
I've got a good glasser there. Harves works pretty closely with me. He knows what I'm doing, and it's not in the immediate future. But I do talk a bit of flack about that for the glassing.
It's a lot of gear, a lot of space, a lot of PPE, a lot of fumes. I reckon you're on the right track, Jill. Shape the blank and hand it over. But
I might not earn the respect of my peers, but
that's where you just turn around to them and say, well, did you use a shaping machine to make your blank or profile? It's always one of those things. There's lots of different ways to skin a cat, as you rightly pointed out. But I think obviously the technological as well as the artistic part really is in shaping the foam. I mean, a good glasser can complement it or ruin it, but I think obviously that IP is in the shape of the foam itself. Shawnee McEwen, we've come to the end of our hour, mate. We've got an exciting guest in next week talking about another big comp.
Yeah, well, it's all comp stuff at the moment. Just before I tell you who's coming on next week, this weekend on the Gold Coast, there's the Gold Coast Pro, which is mainly shortboarding. but there is an invitational longboarding section all being put on by Surfing Queensland.
Oh.
I don't know who has all the invites, but I believe Kira might be one of them. So yeah, I'll be going up to it. It starts on Saturday because we've got that holiday on Monday, so it's 3 days up at Burleigh. Next week, it'll be more contest stuff. We've got all the way from Noosa, we've got John Finley from
World Safaris.
John will be on board and telling us what's coming up at Noosa. It's next month, May, the comp's on. So it'll be really good to have him there. I believe they reckon they're expecting their biggest field ever for the Noosa Festival. So that'll be good, especially in these COVID times. And he's guaranteeing there'll be 9 days of solid stoke.
Unreal. And could be good to catch up with John. Obviously, World Safaris would have been having a bit of a trickier time than most businesses since it revolves around international travel. But Jill, have you been up to the Noosa Fest before?
No, I haven't.
Tell you what, now that you're besties with Molnar, you'll be able to head up there and just sit in the VIP tent. That's another good place for R&D, tax deduction.
Oh, 100%. I just want to look at all those boards and chat to all those shapers.
You want at the Noosa Festival last year, you want to have seen everyone climbing all over the Michael Takayama boards, taking measurements and photos, and there's quite a few similar looking boards have popped up since last March. But
one from through Harvey's factory, because he was restoring one recently that came through. It's pretty amazing to have a good look at it.
So again, it's great to see that even though the boards have been around for a long time, the basic rules are established. There's still a lot of variety within that. I'm really excited as a surfer to see what someone like yourself brings to it. A fresh set of eyes, a fresh way of thinking at things in a slightly different perspective. And you probably don't smell anywhere near as sweaty and horrible as most of the shapers I know. So. Hang on, the phone's ringing. It's Steve Del Rosso. No more boards for you, Weeksy, ever. Okay. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Jillian. Did you have any other messages for our viewers before we let you go? Bearing in mind, of course, now you're going to be inundated with orders.
Can I just quickly say something to Jill? So I was just going to say, Jill, if you do have that opportunity to shape Sean's board and you do need a Bonga Perkins template, I have his board, so I'm more than happy to.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
You just have to scale everything up by about 20%. That's just.
And me and Bonga surf just the same too.
Yes, that's what Bonga said too. Look, I'm going to put us into Brady Bunch mode, so we're all on the screen, or those of us who still remain. So we're all up now. But absolute pleasure talking to you, Jillian. Sean's been telling me all about you, and I'm stoked that we've got to have you on the show. And I'd like to see a lot more lady shapers. And Barsby, you need to go and make yourself a surfboard at least once.
Yeah, I think I have to. I think it's definitely on my bucket list for sure. But it's great to listen to your story, Jill. It's amazing, and I can't wait to catch up in that in July with you. So it'll be
awesome.
What was the label? Surf She? Is that?
Shaped by She. I blog my journey on Instagram under Shaped by She. So you can follow along there and see the pics and read a bit more about the journey, and the different stories and the ups and downs, and then what happens in the surf. And so it's a bit of a running sort of blog. I started it mainly to keep up to date with all the new things I was learning. So I'd sort of, I was in the bay, this is what I learned today, and, blowing my brain. So it started as that, but yeah, Shaped by She.
Shaped by She. You have to get Liz Smiley to be your spokesperson, do your ads for you. Shaped by She. But Maddie Cook, as the most artistic of the men on the panel, have you got any final thoughts for Jill before we wrap up for the week?
No, it's just so great to hear the passion in your voice. You can just feel it, and it's just awesome that you're shaping boards. I just wanted to mention this Saturday there's a really big protest happening down at the beautiful farm in Shell Harbour, where they're protesting against overdevelopment down there. So I think it's about 10 o'clock they're going to hold a big public meeting, and try and break a world record attempt for a paddle out down there at the farm. There's been so much development down there in the past sort of year. It's one of the most beautiful beaches in New South Wales, in Australia, and it'd be great to see a lot of people down there. So I just wanted to mention that before.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And for everyone on the west side, now that Western Australia's had our 3-day lockdown and we've all lived, this week we've got the Margaret River Classic coming up, and I can tell you that as of about Thursday, Friday this week, it's going to be about 5 to 7 metre swell. So if you're wondering about whether you should tune in to the Margaret River event this year, I would suggest the first couple of days of the event in particular are going to be very, very interesting. But Jill, look, it's been great. I can't wait to see you on the East Coast. I'm coming over for the Kirilonga Classic. Please bring the pickle. If I can nose ride it, you're onto something. So on behalf of all our viewers, thank you so much for sharing us with your journey. Jodie Barsby, stoked to have you on the panel, mate. We love looking forward to talking to you every week now. Shawnee McEwen, of course, is getting less and less of him each week, but always good to see a happy, smiling face. And Matty Cook, as always, brother, great for your input and your good vibes. You people at home or driving along in your car listening to the podcast, we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you once again for tuning in. Tell your friends, smash the like and subscribe button. YouTubers have to say that. Smash the button. Caress it gently. Be nice to the like button. Whatever you need to do. It's been great having you here. We'll love to see you next week on Tuesday night for Oz Longboarding. So wave to your mums, and we'll see you all next time.
I never